We're going to introduce length, mass, and time. This is the very first part of physics. We'll do it in three parts. First, we always measure and use units to measure. And second, what we measure first are length, mass, and time, three different things. And then we introduce why the symbols of these properties can be tricky. Length, mass, and time. So length, we use the symbol usually L, and it's measured in meters. So whenever we measure length, it always have to have a unit. Mass, we always measure and what we call SI-based unit, which means standard international unit, is kilograms. Time is T, and the unit we use is second. The symbol is S. So for everything, we have four different parts here. The property's name, its symbol, that's how it usually appears in an equation or a formula. So here is the unit's name. A unit has a symbol. Every property is measured with a unit. Giving a number now that without a unit, it's just like writing a blank check. So if you look at this, we put it in a larger perspective and larger picture. There are 7 fundamental properties in the world that measures the physical objects and the physical materials. Out of the 7, we are studying the first 3, length, time, and mass, in the first part of this physics class. Later on, we're going to introduce temperature, also in this class. The other classes, the other materials, we're going to introduce later. Okay, so this is a very tricky part of the class, and I'd like to give you a big heads up, a shout out, so that you're going to pay attention to this. This might end up being something that you can be confused if you're not sure what you're getting into. Interestingly, we use different symbols to represent different properties in equations. So this is almost like a little sub-language. Instead of writing mass, we use the more simplified version, capital or lowercase m. Instead of writing out time, we write t. Instead of writing TNSIONFORCE, we write capital T. Okay, so for mass of object number 1, we use m subscript 1. Mass of object number 2, mass subscript 2. So this is how we use different symbols to represent different properties. It is very useful that you actually get familiar with this system. So when you see these symbols, you need to go back and know what they actually represent. For example, mg represent weight, and 1g represent the weight of object 1. Rho in the equation represent density, and omega in the equation represent angular velocity. So these are the most basic ones. That's where we get started with. In summary, we learned that when you make measurements, you always have to give a unit. And number 2, we introduced 3 different properties, length, mass, and time, as the beginning of this course. Symbols of these properties can become tricky, so that's why you already got a heads up. You know what to expect